It's no secret that the modern medical system has major flaws. But how did it get this way? How is it that the incentives are so distorted? Why is it that industrial toxic sludge known as seed oils is encouraged and called heart healthy, but grass fed ground beef is demonized? In this episode, I sat down with Dr. Ahmad Ammous. Dr. Ammous is a practicing medical doctor, and he is also a Bitcoiner. And so we get to the bottom of the broken medical system, the distorted incentives, and why everything costs so much. And in this episode, we go deep into some niche esoteric health conversations surrounding diet, exercise, artificial blue light, the sun, and much more. So, without further ado, this is my conversation with Dr. Ahmad Ammous. Do you hate taxes and love Bitcoin? Well, do I have the product for you? New guidelines from the Big Beautiful Bill allow for Bitcoin miners to depreciate 100% of their hardware costs in year one. That means every dollar you spend on Bitcoin mining hardware, you can write off instantly. If you have $100,000 in income you want to offset, you can purchase $100,000 of Bitcoin mining hardware and offset it. Blockware makes Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone. You could purchase a Bitcoin miner hosted at one of our data centers, and we will operate it for you. You get to acquire Bitcoin every single day at a discount to the market price, while also receiving major tax benefits. For more information, click the link in the description or go to mining.blockwaresolutions.com/tax. Again, that's mining.blockwaresolutions.com/tax. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Blockware podcast. We have a big show today. I'm excited to welcome Dr. Ahmad Ammous. Doctor, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mitchell. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's an honor. I've been following you on X for some time now, and you put out a lot of great stuff. And I find it curious because you are a licensed doctor, a licensed medical professional, and you also recommend a lot of alternative medicine and health solutions. And I find that crossover to be fascinating because I kind of take like a left side of the bell curve approach to a lot of health things, like, you know, pills bad basically. But you actually, I'm assuming, have a lot of the data and studies to kind of back up some of the alternative stuff. So I want to dive deep on that. But first, I just want to get your background. So how did you get into medicine and what's kind of your origin story?
Yeah, so I've always wanted to be a doctor. My dad was a doctor. He was my inspiration, and I worked hard to get into medical school. You know, you have to kind of excel in undergraduate, and then I made it to medical school. And in medical school, I was just really disappointed because I was seeing these patients that would keep coming back, and we'd never help them. I'd ask these patients, "Oh, so you're taking all the medications as prescribed?" And they'll be yes. And I'm like, "So how much improvement did you feel since starting treatment?" And they'll tell you 20 or 30%. And it was quite disturbing for me. You know, I've worked so hard to get into medicine, and I still have so many years ahead of me, and I'm only going to help people get better by 30%. So, it was a difficult time in my life, and I thought about quitting, but I kept reading and I kept just self-searching things, and I discovered that no, there are actually ways to heal people, but they don't involve pills.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So you were already in the medical world when you kind of had this epiphany. Can you talk a little more about the incentives there? Because I think what most people would expect is the doctors like that, right? You want the patients to keep coming back. There's kind of a monetary incentive to keep people on the pills. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so the entire system is built on selling people medications. It's not built on selling people cures. And since the early 1900s, they started discovering patented drugs, which were based on petroleum products. And they discovered that if you patent a medication, you can make a lot of money of it. And it's a lot more useful if you keep the patients hooked on it for the rest of their life. If you cure someone, then that's a customer lost. And doctors are not evil. Doctors don't know that. The system knows that. The system is built in a certain way, and doctors are just slaves following the rules. and they're as frustrated as the patients of why nobody is getting better and why do they people keep coming back. But they're just so indoctrinated that they don't understand where the core of the problem is.
Right, that makes sense. And would you say this is safe to say that like the type of person to go through medical school? I found in my experience, I went through undergrad and then I didn't do any more schooling, but I found the people that are very obsessed with schooling and do a lot of school and do well at it, they are kind of more that rule following type. So would you kind of agree with that? And that could probably be why you say they're slaves. I mean, they're just not able to break out of kind of the textbook style of thinking.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that's a major part of it, because it's just so competitive to get into medical school and then to get into residency, and there's just so many hurdles on the way that at each hurdle, the people that are more entrepreneurial, the people that like to think outside the box, they're gonna start to consider other career paths and doing other things with their lives. Doctors are the ones that are just gonna sit
Mhm.
and focus and keep studying. And you get to the point, the people that actually end up being practicing doctors are ones that don't like to think outside the box at all.
Right, that makes sense. And it's good that we have those types of people that can sit there and stay laser focused, but you can see how it kind of results in a subpar end result in terms of medical care for the customer. The origin story of you coming on the show is you replied to one of my posts and you wanted to talk specifically about fiat food. Can you explain what fiat food is?
Yeah, I mean, so a big part of why people are so unhealthy these days is because we are fed industrial sludge that they label as food. And a major driver of this, and this is why we're talking about this in a Bitcoin podcast, is a major driver for all of this is once the Federal Reserve was created, once government had unlimited supply of money, especially after going off the gold standard, all of a sudden inflation started rising and rising. And how does government cover inflation? Well, they do that by trying to convince you that, oh, the groceries that you used to buy are now 10 times the price, but oh no, you're buying the wrong things. You shouldn't be buying eggs, you shouldn't be buying meat, you shouldn't be buying full fat milk. Instead, you should be buying all this low fat, processed, high carb industrial food, which is a lot cheaper, but it's a lot worse for your health. And so a major reason why we are unhealthy these days is the destruction of the food, the American diet, just to hide inflation, which happened because of fake money and fiat money.
Right. Would it even be safe to say that like, fiat money and inflation is the root or primary cause of America's obesity epidemic?
100%, yes. It is also, I mean, the flip side of that is that they make money off keeping, like, of getting you sick, and then they make money off, quote unquote, treating you, which also the treating is just working on keeping you sick. And there's also corruption in how did we get to the medical system we're in right now. And this is a very important, transition in history that not many people talk about. But in 1910, which again around the same time that the Federal Reserve was created, this was the time when the American government just became all powerful and almighty. In 1910, the American Medical Association wrote something called the Flexner Report, which was a document to try and standardize medical education in the US. It sounds great on paper. You want to make sure that all medical schools are teaching the same thing. But what they were actually doing is that they wanted to uh, only allow pharmaceutical medicine to be taught in med schools. Anything else, anything lifestyle oriented, any alternative mode of healing was ignored and was actually criminalized. And 60% of US medical schools were shut down. So modern medicine is also a fiat creation. It was created by government through government decree, and the purpose was just to benefit the pharmaceutical company, which of course was in bed with the government.
Interesting. It sounds very similar to how economics was kind of standardized in the education system, right?
Mhm.
I didn't even hear about Austrian economics until I read your brother's book, The Bitcoin Standard. And I majored in economics in college. All they teach is Keynesian, and that but kind of becomes like the de facto school of thought. It seems like something similar happened in the medical world.
It's brainwashing, and it's the repercussions in medicine are absolutely enormous because we've had hundreds and thousands of years of medical knowledge and medical wisdom, and all of a sudden it's no longer taught to anyone. And this is what we see now. Like, you go to a doctor and they are unable to help you because pills don't work and the doctor only knows how to do pills, and it's the consequences are disastrous.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it seems like you touch on a good point there that it's old wisdom lost, right? Natural and alternative medicine is not necessarily just something new that, whack jobs started, creating. It's like these are actually, there are protocols that have existed for all of human civilization. Is that true to say?
Yes, I mean, they're passed down traditions for hundreds and thousands of years, and but on the other hand, pharmaceutical or allopathic medicine only started in the end of the 1800s. Because before that we weren't able to make all these compounds in large quantities. So you've replaced something that's been working for hundreds of years with something that wasn't really tested, and that's why people are so sick.
Right. Now, if I'm going to steel man this, because I already know the question that someone in favor of the traditional medical system would present is, for thousands of years humans died when they were 30, right? That was the average life expectancy, versus over the last 100 years the life expectancy has increased tremendously. Many people might point to the modern medical system as the primary reason for that. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I mean, this is also a big fiat lie in that, oh, it's vaccines and it's antibiotics that caused people to live longer. What's not actually true. If you look at the graphs of all these infectious diseases, how we got rid of them, it was all before the invention of vaccines. What actually the major breakthrough in the 18th and 19th, in the 19th and 20th century was just the improvement in living standards, in food refrigeration, sewage systems, sanitation. That was the major upgrade in what caused the increase in lifespan that we see. I mean, there are important things that modern medicine discovered, and I'm not gonna deny that, especially things with improvement in, say, infant mortality and giving birth. All of these things, we've made progress there. Not all of modern medicine is trash, but there's a lot of trash.
Right. Right. That's an interesting perspective, and it certainly makes you think, right? It's like it's not the modern medicine that made humans live longer. It's the fact that we're no longer like washing our hands in fecal matter and eating food that went bad, right? It's generally these would stem from human ingenuity, right? Humans are becoming more technologically proficient. We're understanding sanitation better, have better sanitation protocols, better protocols for keeping our food clean and not ingesting slop, basically. And that could be why we see a larger lifespan over time. It really is kind of stems from economics, just as fiat medicine and the destructive elements of that stem from economics as well, and broken money. It's like the technological and economic advancements of humans are allowing us to live longer as well on the other side.
100%. And you know the modern medicine has given us a lot of benefit. Like, for example, in the management of trauma, you'd much rather get hit by a car now than 40 years ago. But the management of chronic disease and addressing what actually causes chronic disease, modern medicine just has no idea.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense. I think about that a lot too. When I get frustrated with the medical system, I'm like, well, worst comes to worst. If I got in a car accident and I was like impaled, for all its problems, like an ambulance is going to be there within minutes, pick me up, take me to the hospital. I'm going to be on an operating table. Like, this is something that I don't think exists in many parts of the world today. We're kind of blessed here in the United States, and it certainly, like you said, didn't exist 40 years ago.
Yeah, and it's pretty incredible. And the the positive spin on this is, hopefully, once Bitcoin breaks this fiat system, you imagine all the progress that we've made in hospitals and managing these conditions. Imagine combining that with all the medical knowledge that is the historic medical knowledge that's been suppressed. The results could be incredible. How much we'll be able to help people, how we'll be able to improve lifespan, how we'll be able to improve the management of chronic disease. It's incredible. But we have to point out what the issues with the modern medical system are.
Right, 100%. And you mentioned Bitcoin, and I want to get back to that because this is a Bitcoin podcast, and I'm sure some of my audience is kind of confused on this conversation. But one thing I want to make sure we touch on is the cost side of things and insurance and how this kind of plagues the current system. Because in this scenario I outlined where I get impaled in a car accident and I have to go get surgery, well, that surgery could cost $100,000. Are you really using $100,000 of resources to perform all of this? Like, why have medical costs become so bloated?
Yeah, so this is a very, very important point. And again, it goes back to the Austrian economics perspective. Nothing, no service ever can be given for free. Every resource, every service has required either some physical resources or the most valuable resources, which is human time. So it's not feasible for a doctor to work for free. It's not feasible for a hospital to work for free. At the same time, it's not feasible to force everyone to buy a certain product. Because what does that mean? That means that there's always a high demand for the product, and the supply won't be able to compensate for that demand. So you are messing with the market dynamics in medicine, and you're doing that by forcing everyone to get health insurance. So what that means is that everybody's medical services are covered. So anyone with a random backache now, they can afford it because they have insurance. I want to get an MRI. I want to see an orthopedic surgeon. I want to see a physical therapist. So that is always just driving demand, demand, demand. Then there's a principle of moral hazard where if you're not paying for something, you want more of it. And that's just natural human nature. So the problem with the issue of this problem is, well, if someone wants to pay for medical insurance, they have the right to, but you can't force it on people because then it's going to create a lot of extra demand in the system. And that's what
Yeah.
drives a lot of the costs in healthcare.
Yeah. I mean, that totally makes sense. It's kind of the same situation with like if you had rent controlled apartments, right? You're going to increase demand because you're artificially messing with the price of goods and services. Or another good example would be college, university, right? If you have, these government student loan programs that are going to write the check for anybody who wants to go to college, you're going to artificially increase demand. And then what are the colleges going to do? They're going to raise the price of tuition because they know everybody has someone willing to pay on their behalf. Same situation with insurance. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, exactly. And, it sounds terrible. Like, oh, so if someone doesn't want to get insurance, what happens if they get into a car accident? Well, historically, there's always been charities, there's always been churches that cover these emergency costs. Or you could just get insurance that covers these, disaster situations. But you don't need insurance to cover your day-to-day, everyday health expenses. If you need to go to a doctor, you just pay them directly. And that is a big part of the problem that we have right now. But of course, the way the modern system is built is insurance companies actually benefit from your bill being high. You're not in medicine right now. You are not actually the consumer. You are actually the product. So
Mm.
hospitals are selling insurance companies services, and you're just somewhere in the middle. And again, nobody's interested in having you be satisfied. It's just an interaction between them, and you're just stuck in the middle.
Yeah, I mean it is a terrible situation when you put it like that. We are not the consumers, we are the product. One thing I've been thinking about on a personal level a lot recently is insurance because I just got married. I'm 25, so I've been able to kind of freeload on my parents' health insurance for now. But being married, I want to take, it's a big responsibility. I'm going to now provide that service for my household. And I've been thinking between do I use, the employer offered insurance that I have available to me, or do I use something like Crowd Health? What are your thoughts on that? And what are kind of the trade offs with a Crowd Health type service?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Crowd Health. I have no affiliation with them, but I really like their model. And the reason why their model works is that because you become the customer again, you're not a third party in your health. You pay directly for your service, and then they basically they negotiate for you on your behalf. They're not an insurance company. They don't get paid directly. So their model works, and the reason it works is because they talk to physicians directly. So you are getting, yeah, again, you're no longer a bystander in this. And the problem with your employer's health insurance is that a lot of times you're going to have to pay a very expensive copay, even if you're insured. So that's where the trade-off is.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense because I guess I didn't fully comprehend that they are literally negotiating on our behalf. It's almost like having like an agent that represents you in terms of your medical needs. And as someone who's young and healthy and in good shape, right, I'm only really concerned with the edge cases. I'm not a little back pain going to get an MRI on a random weekday, right? It's like I just want to be covered in case I get impaled in a car accident or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if your employer doesn't need you to pay for it, then that makes sense. But if you have to pay even a small amount, you're better off investing in crowd health because uh, you only pay with how much you need to use.
Right. Exactly. I have kind of like a list of, maybe call it a speed round or whatever, like 8 different topics that are kind of natural health things that, some people think is voodoo, whatever, but I do these things and I want to kind of get your perspective on them. First is headphones. So I've made the switch to wired headphones. What's wrong with Bluetooth? Because I just feel it like my head gets foggy if I wear them for too long. But again, I don't have any science behind it other than it makes me feel weird wearing them for too long. So Bluetooth headphones, what's the problem there?
Yeah, so I know a lot about all these voodoo topics, so I'm glad you're asking. All I do is voodoo. So modern medicine doesn't want to talk about this, but there's a lot of research supporting it. Our body are energetic bodies. There's an energy field inside of you, and it's sensitive to the energies that you're exposed to. Any device that you're connected to emits an electromagnetic field, electromagnetic frequencies called EMFs. These have been actually experimentally proved that they affect your cells working on something called calcium channels. So your cells naturally have a balance of calcium inside and outside the cell, where there's a lot more calcium outside. These electromagnetic frequencies actually activate calcium channels and cause the calcium to go in. And when you have too much calcium inside the cell, it's toxic for your cell. It starts to increase inflammation. It starts to increase reactive oxygen species in the cell. So electromagnetic frequencies are not good for you. Bluetooth headphones are basically emitting EMFs directly communicating with each other, so through your brain, which is not ideal.
Yeah.
It's a high electromagnetic field, and it's going directly into your brain, so it's not great. It causes demyelination in the brain. It causes other issues. It causes issues in the middle ear, so that's not good. Wired headphones are much better because it's a lot less. I mean, there is some electromagnetic frequencies coming through the wires, but it's a lot less than the Bluetooth headphones.
Interesting. That makes sense. Do you think, God forbid, we're going to see like everyone getting brain cancer 30 years from now because they've been wearing Bluetooth headphones the entire
I
time?
mean, people need to be aware. It's not great, and there's definitely links between all sorts of electromagnetic frequencies and brain tumors. So
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the wired ones. One other thing that I think could be a source of EMFs, and I saw this on your X feed recently, is I have my laptop plugged in right now. Is it good practice to try to not keep devices plugged in as frequently as you're able to?
Yeah, so I mean, when you're charging, there's an electric field that is coming from, your home electricity to the laptop. This electric field is on when you're connected and charging. If you unplug your laptop, there's a lot less electric field coming from the laptop. So if possible, try and not do that. If you're working on your laptop, charge it when you're not using it. That also reduces your electromagnetic frequencies. I
Right, that makes sense.
If people are curious to just explore and play around, there are like cheap RF radio frequency meters on Amazon that you can just buy for like $20, and you can just experiment with these things. And so if you put it on your laptop, it barely detects anything. But if you plug your laptop, immediately it goes up high. And this again is not good for you. You're very close to it. Your hands might be exposed to it, so you're getting exposure to it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get one of those for sure because I'm curious to see how that changes. Another thing I think about a lot recently is light. And right now I have these two big bright LED lights shining on me, so I have good lighting for the show, but I'm going to turn these off as soon as it's over.
Good.
And I've started wearing the red light glasses at night. Can you talk a little bit more about light and how important this is for the human body?
Yeah, so it's very very important. What I was taught in medical school is that your body uses food to make energy. But this is actually not completely correct. Your body uses food in order to generate molecules, in order to make things like your skin, to make cell walls, to make cell membranes, etc. What you actually use to make energy is light energy. Light energy works on your cells, it splits water into hydrogen and oxygen, and this creates an electric field in your cells that powers every function in your cell. So the light that you're exposed to is very important in how you generate cells and how your body runs. And the best form of light to do that is, of course, sunlight, because it provides all the rays of light that your cells need. On the flip side, blue light actually makes this cell generation process less efficient. And we currently live in an environment where we're exposed to isolated blue light all the time through our exposure to screens and LED bulbs. And this has negative influence on your body's ability to generate energy, which affects every cell in the body.
Yeah, wow. I mean, and I think about hospitals, they're filled with these LED lights, right? It's just like a giant blue light bulb. Can't be optimal for helping people recover.
It's a mess, and people, there's a lot of people that come to hospitals and it can get worse, and that's part of it because they're stuck in these rooms without sunlight that have artificial light all day. It's terrible.
Is it true that hospitals used to have sunrooms? Like I was looking at this old book, and they would roll the patients like into this courtyard area, and they would do like sun healing, and they would do that for like an hour a day.
Yeah, there was a known what method of healing called heliotherapy, which means healing with sunlight, and there are certain diseases that's the best treatment for, like tuberculosis or vitamin D deficiency, etc. But in general, you need sunlight in order to uh, function as a human being. One of the major sources of why we're sick these days is because we spend so much time indoors and we don't get enough sunlight.
Yeah, I've certainly experienced this anecdotally. I used to live in a very cold place and I would stay inside for a lot of the year. It wasn't that much natural sunlight. And I had terrible eczema during that time of my life. And then I moved somewhere a little bit warmer, started getting sunlight on a regular basis. It all went away. I had years, growing up, I had tried every medical thing in the book, all the different creams, all the ointments, different medicines, and everything. Sometimes it would work temporarily, but it would always come back. It wasn't until I made sunlight a priority that my eczema finally went away.
Yeah, I mean, sunlight is the most important nutrient you need. It's more important than any food you get. Your body doesn't just use it to make vitamin D, which is very important for your body. It uses it to generate energy directly in your cell. It also sunlight that you're exposed to your eyes sets your circadian rhythm, and based on that sets different hormones that you receive during the entire day. A lot of young men watch your podcast probably. Major problem these days is people don't have enough testosterone, and the reason is
Hmm.
because in order to build enough testosterone, your body needs the right light signals, and you only get that from the sunlight, from seeing the sun at different points during the day.
Yeah, that makes sense. I flew 6 time zones recently. I had a red eye, and that just totally messed me up for like a week. Going from just throwing my circadian rhythm off. I left at like noon, and then I landed. It was 10 a.m. and I slept all day, and it was terrible. And it took me about a week to recover. So I can only imagine if you have your circadian rhythm unsynced for your entire life, it's going to have pretty disastrous consequences, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, most people these days, the problem is that our days are not bright enough because the sun is a lot brighter than any artificial light you get during the inside. So our days are not bright enough to get all the benefits of the sun. And on the other hand, after sunset, our nights are too bright. As soon as the sun goes down, we turn all these lights on, or fake lights on, and this is this is a signal for your body that your body expects darkness at night. If it all of a sudden gets all this light, it thinks, oh, it's noon again. And so it gives you all these hormones like cortisol and norepinephrine that give you energy, even though your body should be winding down to go to bed. That's why a lot of people have problems going to bed because they're getting too much light at night. And also, the quality of our sleep is not as good because we're not making enough melatonin, because this artificial light at night is destroying the melatonin that your body is making.
Mhm. But doctor, I thought the sun was bad. I thought it was unhealthy. If you go out, you could get burned and get skin cancer, right?
Yeah, so I mean, you could. I mean, medical system is corrupt to try and sell you pills, but there's also consideration that they actually want to make you sick. They want to make you sick so that you stay sick, and they can sell you more pills. So one of the ways they keep you sick is by telling you that the sun is bad for you. And all of this drama around sun being bad for you started in like the 1970s when rates of skin cancer started going up. And there are certain benign, generally benign tumors of the skin that are, you do get more of them if you're exposed to the sun too much. Actually, the most fearful type of skin cancer, melanoma, it's actually not linked to sun exposure. Most of the cases, 80% of the cases, occur in areas that are not exposed to the sun. So there's not really that much science proving that the sun causes skin cancer. But of course, sunscreen manufacturers jumped on it, and the entire also dermatology specialty kind of became obsessed with the sun because they were making a lot of money screening people for skin cancer and stuff. So they wanted to scare you of the sun. So it's an entire scam, and it resulted in people being just fearful of the sun. To point out, you the sun is good for you, but you don't want to get sunburned. And the way you don't get sunburned is don't use sunscreen. Sunscreen has a lot of fake compounds that are actually carcinogenic. The way you prevent yourself from getting sunscreen is that you gradually increase your exposure outside in the sun till you naturally build the tan, which is made by melanin in your skin. And the best way to do this is expose yourself early in the morning, as early as possible, because then there's less UV. And gradually you can spend more time and more time closer to noon. And that's how you can get this natural protection without getting sunburned.
What would you say to someone in terms of practical living application? If you live in a very cold environment, someone's like, I hear you on this, I want all this sun, but I go outside and it's 15 degrees for half of the year. What can they do? I mean, do they basically just have to suck it up and go out in the cold anyways?
Yeah, so I mean, you don't need to be sunbathing every day. It's very difficult to do in a cold environment. But The minimum is just going out every a few times a day, especially in the morning, just so your eyes see the sun. So even if your body is completely covered, even if you have three jackets on, if your eyes get the signal from the sun, it knows that it's the morning, and that regulates all the hormones in your body. So just go outside for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, look in the direction of the sun, get some sunlight there, and do that a few times a day, say in the morning, noon, afternoon, and towards sunset. Uh, Other things that people that live in cold environments, even if they live in dark environments, there are things that you can do to sort of charge your mitochondria, which are those organelles in your body that help with energy generation. Some of the things that you can do is cold exposure, and that's, it's good to be in the cold showers, cold plunges. These are great for people who live in places that are cold and dark in the winter. Sauna, infrared sauna is also great for that. So these are sort of things that can help your body compensate for not having sunlight.
That makes sense. So I would, given that the input comes through the eyes, I would assume you're very anti sunglasses.
Yeah, sunglasses are also a big scam. Your eyes, your body needs the entire spectrum of sunlight in order to generate these hormones that I talked about. Your brain relies on the signal from the eyes, and it wants there to be UV light, which is important for your body. Uh, Cases of, you know, sun actually damaging your eyes are very, very rare, and they usually occur on ski slopes, which I would recommend people use sunglasses then, because the sun reflects off the white surface and comes into your eyes, so you're getting a double dose of sun. If you're out on open water for a long time, if you're staring on the water for long, or if you're boating, you'll need that. If you're driving and looking directly at the sun and you can't look away, then you'll need sunglasses. But in any other cases, if you're just walking outside in nature, your body naturally, and if you're looking at the sun, your body will naturally make you look away if there's too much sun coming in, and it's just a natural reaction. And so you don't need sunglasses to do that protection.
Interesting. I threw away all my sunglasses, but perhaps if I go skiing, I'll have to pick some up again. One thing that I wanted to make sure I asked you is there an optimal human diet? Because the word diet has become synonymous with like not eating or eating less, which doesn't make sense to me. Because with other animals, if you say, the diet of a tiger shark, it's referring to a very specific list of things that it eats for maximum nutrients, like small fish, for example. And if they don't get their proper diet, if they're deficient in that, there's going to be severe negative health consequences. And so humans, if we think of ourselves as an animal species, is there a very like specific diet of things we need to be consuming regularly?
Yes, and the way to answer that question is you make sure that you don't listen to any of the research from universities or dietary institutions, etc., because they are financed by the food industry, which wants to sell you fake stuff that keeps you sick. So what's an alternative way of looking at diet? A very good resource of looking for understanding that is the work of this dentist called Weston Price. So Weston Price was a dentist in the early 1900s, and this was when vegan and vegetarian diets were sort of becoming popular. And he traveled the world going to societies that weren't touched by industrialization. So they still ate their native food that they've been eating for thousands of years. And he wanted to see what they're eating. He thought that they'll all be vegetarian and vegan because vegetarian and vegan diets were the healthiest thing thought of at that time. He goes there, and all these societies, he went to several continents in the world. All these societies, what they shared in common is that the staple of their diet is some sort of animal protein and fat. So, whatever local animal was there, whether it was beef, lamb, chicken, game, fish, that was the staple of the diet, with combined with whatever grows in season there in the form of fruits and vegetables. And so a cornerstone for a healthy diet, in my opinion, is animal meat and fat. you need to make sure that you're having that with every meal. If you do that, then whatever you have on the side is just complements. Some people do better with some carbs, some people do with no carbs. All these things, that's just details. But the staple of the diet should be meat and fat.
That makes sense. So the carnivore diet, some people might say it's a fad, but it seems to be like pretty rock solid. And if you want to throw in, some potatoes or rice, that's no big deal, right?
Yeah, I mean, I used to be a carnivore. I no longer am 100% carnivore. I eat other things on the side. I think most people do better with some sort of fruit and vegetable on the side, some form of carbohydrates. But 100% carnivore works for some people. Again, it depends on a lot on your genetic makeup, on your metabolism, on your lifestyle, on where you live. So there's no clear rule, but you definitely need meat, and you need a lot of meat.
How much should you cook red meat? On a scale of rare to well done, is there an optimal level in terms of nutrients?
There's no actual, it depends on the cut. It depends on the type of meat. In general, ground beef, you want to eat it well cooked because it can harbor some bacteria and stuff. So you want it to be cooked well. With regards to steaks, I mean, the trade-off between the way to think about it is when it's more rare, it requires less. Sorry, when it's more cooked, it loses a bit more of its nutrients in cooking, but it's easier for your body to digest. On the other hand, a steak that's more rare requires more effort for you to digest, but has more of its nutrients in it. So that's the trade-off. And so I tell people, just do it according to taste.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess would your body be able to build almost a tolerance? Like, let's say you start with well done and you slowly cook it less and less. Is your body able to adjust and digest it better as you get more rare?
Yes, to a point. I know some people try eating rare meat all the time or uncooked meat all the time. There are people that flourish on this, but in general, it does take more digestive effort for you to do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to stick with medium because I think that's a
Good.
happy balance.
Yeah.
One thing I want to ask about too is fabric types, polyester versus linen versus wool. Is it true that polyester just, tanks your testosterone and you should avoid it at all costs?
I mean, there are some studies that say that the microplastics in it go into your body. Uh, how much of an effect does it have? It's not really clear. My general view on toxins and worrying about toxins and plastics and microplastics is if you have a healthy metabolism in that is you're getting the right light cues, you're getting the right nutrition, your body is able to detox a lot of these things. Of course, preferable that you don't use plastic silverware, plastic dishes, because that's an easy fix, and that contributes a lot when you're eating it. With regards to clothes, I mean, my recommendation is don't wear polyester boxers or briefs, because they're going directly into your genitalia, and that might be a problem for your testosterone levels that way. T-shirts and shorts, I don't know how big of a problem it is. It could be. If you have other garments, it's probably better, but if you still want to use polyester every once in a while, then that's fine in my opinion.
Okay, that makes me breathe somewhat of a sigh of relief because I'm all cotton underwear, but it's hard to find cotton shorts. That is like very rare. And then like when you're working out and stuff, it can get very sticky and wet. I try to wear as much cotton as possible, but probably 20% of the time some polyester slips in there.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I wear it sometimes too, so.
Yeah, that's good to know. And then you mentioned vaccines briefly. What are your overall thoughts on that? And has that changed throughout your career?
Yeah, so I mean, my story is also I went into this very innocent and I didn't know what was happening. When I started my pediatrics, or the children module, in the hospital, where you go and you work with children and you see children as patients. I expected for them to come and teach us, why do we have to vaccinate kids? Where does the schedule come from? How was it built? What I was given instead was just, this is the vaccination schedule, give it to all your patients, and this is what you should follow. So, I mean, that didn't sit well with me. I'm curious, why is that the case? And so I went and did some research on my own, and I discovered that there actually isn't randomized controlled trials or any sort of trial testing these vaccine safety. And it seems that most of these vaccines, they, these diseases went away, all these infectious diseases went away before the vaccines were introduced. And again, this is all because of sanitation and because of just people building natural resistance to these. So no infectious disease was eradicated because of a vaccine. And on the other side, they do have a lot of side effects, especially on children. So in medical school, I wasn't taught anything about it. And so I went and did my own research, and what I discovered was shocking. And I definitely advise any parents or parents to be to do their own research before listening to what their pediatrician says.
Right. Lord willing, I'll have children sometime soon, and I'm going to do a deep dive on that. That's interesting. They don't teach you the why behind it. It's just the how. I've heard that before too from, there's a big nursing school where I'm at, so I've met nurses all the time, and I feel like half of what they do is just memorizing vaccination schedules. No nutrition, no anything else. It's just like XYZ vaccine in this order. You don't know why, it's just what it is.
Yeah, most doctors and healthcare providers, they don't know the science behind what they're doing. We're taught to just do this, follow the guidelines. And so, your doctor, when you come to him with a problem, he doesn't actually go and open the studies, or he doesn't base what he's doing on studies. He just bases them on guidelines written by medical societies. Who are these medical societies? These medical societies are kind of like labor unions, a collection of doctors that want to, optimize a certain field of medicine, say cardiology or endocrinology, etc. However, this society is heavily funded by pharmaceutical industry. So all the guidelines that they write are biased towards pharmaceutical companies. And so doctors are just blindly following things that are telling them to sell more pills.
It's a shame. And it's the antithesis of the Bitcoin ethos, which is don't trust, verify. Do not trust the experts, do your own research.
Yeah, we don't. Doctors do not verify on their own. They just follow what they're told. So it's your job as a patient these days, as a citizen, to do that. And fortunately, I mean, we
Yeah.
have the internet now, and if you do a little bit of research, you can start to discover voices that are dissenting on the system, like I am, and you can get guidance there.
What role do you think AI is going to play in changing the medical world?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. You can learn a lot from asking AI questions, but if you just ask for general health advice, what it's giving you is giving you the top five medical websites, the most visited medical websites, and these are all pharmaceutical based medicine websites. So if it tells you something, keep in mind that it's telling you what the mainstream wants you to know. It's very helpful for me as a doctor, in that I ask it, so what if I know that this physician I trust, it can summarize everything that this physician has said, so that it's very good that
Yeah.
way. And so if you as a patient are interested in something, you can tell it, so what is this doctor's perspective on this disease? What does this doctor say on how treating this disease? That's good. A lot of people are worried that AI is going to replace doctors, and it's a natural thing that's going to happen, because modern doctors have just become pharmaceutical bots. They just listen to, you have these symptoms, we're going to give you these pills. They just follow an algorithm. A robot can do that algorithm, but medicine itself is a lot more complex. You need to look at the patient, look at their lifestyle, look at how are they eating wrong, what are they exposed to that's wrong. That's actual medicine, and that's what actually helps people. and modern doctors are not doing that.
Right. That makes sense. It's sounds like it'll be a good thing then. It'll replace the fluff, drug dealer doctors, and the true value additive doctors will be just fine.
Yeah.
And before we wrap up the pod, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about Bitcoin. What's your Bitcoin origin story? I mean, obviously your brothers with Saifedean Ammous. So did he play any role in orange pilling you, or is this something you kind of found on your own?
Yeah, I mean, so funnily enough, is I lived with him when I did my medical school, and that was around the same time when he sort of went deep into the Bitcoin rabbit hole. He was before that a gold bug, and he was kind of discovering all these things about the financial system and finally connecting it to Bitcoin, while at the same time I was discovering all these horrendous things about the medical system. And it was
Mm.
interesting, us, you know, comparing notes at the end of every day of the things we've discovered. And he definitely was a strong factor in orange pilling me. And once I've met a lot of similar minded people, because once you question something, once you question the economic and financial system through Bitcoin, you start to question everything else. And medicine is definitely a field that we need to do a lot of questioning for.
Yeah, I totally agree. And my pipeline was definitely like find Bitcoin, start questioning everything. It's very interesting. I mean, the first person who put me on to like no seed oils was a guy who I met on X, and he had an anonymous profile picture, and I met him through Bitcoin, and he's like, dude, you need to stop eating out, eat all these seed oils, like start eating raw eggs, get sunlight. And I started doing this stuff, and I got healthier, and I actually got stronger. I put on muscle. I saw my gym gains explode. So the Bitcoin community, when you're right about the broken monetary system, there are a lot of downstream effects, and it touches many things that on the surface you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, and the rabbit hole just keeps getting deeper. The more and more you
Definitely
discover, the
does.
more there is to learn.
Yes, sir. Well, Doctor, I really appreciate you coming on and taking the time to do this. Is there anywhere you'd like to send the audience to keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah, so thank you for having me. I am on Twitter and Instagram at AmmousMD. I also have my website, AmmousMD.com. People can follow me there.
Awesome. Everybody, links to that in the description. Make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Thank you, Doctor.